So I'm trying to do a reading on why the Dems didn't respond the way that they should have, which was to stop uh, the election. And when there was a problem with where ballots were being set on fire and all of this really, this should have. And when these ballots were coming in so fast, they should have known something was off. Regardless, no matter what, why didn't they choose one of the many chances, one of the many options that they could have chosen to stop this, to stop him at the end of the day? Why did the Dems not stop him at the end of the day? And I'm asking the Holy Spirit to guide me and my discernment, as always, to help me to read accurately and clearly. Okay, why didn't the Dems do what they could have? I think too slow of a response, and that they thought it would be too much of a burden to enact everyone to, let's say, do the election over. That makes sense, but it also makes me angry. And I think this is the slowest knight in the deck. Too slow of a response. And I think they thought it would be too much of a burden. Maybe some of them felt like it was also too late. They just let her lose. Don't like that at all. I also feel like she feels like she was let down, that they didn't fight for her. I think deep down inside, she might feel, Kamala, that they weren't willing to fight for her enough to call it off and ask for this to be restarted, or, whatever. And now we get to go through the dark night till we get to the light, when we can really do something more. They didn't fight for Hillary or for Kamala. I think it's an antiquated way of responding to elections, period. I also think that underlying a lot of this is misogyny. They did the same thing, though, to Al Gore and the missing Chads with Bush. I don't know if he would have won that one, but this isn't the first time. I think it's an antiquated playbook that they've gone by that is not helpful. Again, that they limited thinking on their part. They needed to think outside the box, and they didn't do it. They needed to think more like Moldova, wasn't it? And they just stayed put. And that's paired with the lovers, a choice. Maybe they thought we'll depend on other forces or other aspects to help the situation, because we don't feel like there's anything we can do. And I don't think they thought that they didn't try to think, well, maybe there is. Have we thought of this? Well, what about that? I think it was just like, no, we can't do that. They felt very stuck and helpless to do anything. But they weren't entirely helpless. They just weren't willing to challenge the rules, to make a scene. And I think it's really about making the scene. They didn't want to make a scene. They were afraid that they would have another probably riot, thinking of January 6th and all of that. But sometimes you have to break an egg in this case, and they didn't. There's the 9 of Cups, and it's paired with the 3 of Pentacles. So this is a collaborative effort. I think those that were directing this just made poor choices and were maybe too proud to say, no, we need to have this redone. This isn't right. Or we need to do this, that, or the other. I think they were too assured in their thinking. They just didn't go to bat. Here is the wealth, the comfort, and the world, the end. This feels like complacency. I think when there was a moment, they were still acting from a place of complacency as a group. And high-minded. Well, again, the statesmanship versus somebody that doesn't respect any of that and doesn't respond to that. I think they were definitely too withheld and thinking in a limited way and not appreciating that they needed to step outside the box with that. Their first clue with that should have been when they allowed him to do that to Hillary. But they've allowed it twice now. It also makes me feel that with some of them, they're just too weak to stand up. And maybe some of them are a bit too misogynist as well, that they don't think that they were not going to fight for women the way they would maybe for someone else, a male. But I think even if it had been a male figure that was running, I think they would have done the same thing. I think they're just antiquated and too reserved with that 8 of Swords, thinking that these are the only ways we can do things. And the card was saying you need to think outside the box. There are other things you could do. You're just not doing them. All right. So they were complacent and they weren't willing to think outside the box. Have the Democrats learned a lesson? Do they realize that they need to be much more aggressive? Or are they still thinking that that is the way to respond? Have they opened their eyes and do they regret being so laid back? Will they regret, and do they regret, not acting more assertively? The Democrats. Here is strength shutting the mouth of the lion gently. And this is getting away with something. Yeah, I think they do. I think they realized that they were too soft. And so he got away with it. They should have acted ahead of time. What else are we getting? Here we have the bully, the ruthlessness, and they're not responding, sitting there, not liking the options. It doesn't matter if you don't like the options. You need to get off your butt and smack the knock the cups down and say, nope, this is a do-over or whatever. It's like they're not realizing that option of we need to do this over. They're thinking we still got to play by these rules. Back to that Eight of Swords. We can't act. Limited thinking is what made them not respond the way they should have. And so, the end. This also needs to be transformed. It needs to be the last time that they do this. And they lost. They didn't stand up to win. I think they thought, well, it's inevitable now. When we could have been resetting this and doing, I'd rather reset it and do it all over. I think it's perfectly all right to be angry with them. Send them a letter a day if you need to, because they need it. I don't want to receive one more thing from them asking for my money, my time, whatever. And I'm going to let them know. They need to change. Here's the spirit that they should have come out the gates with. That's all I can say. Because this Manite does think, does direct themselves, but they act more timely and with enthusiasm. All right, what's this Knight paired with? Being watchful, paying attention, and information. This is information they should have acted on. And they should have been listening. Like when Trump said, it's okay, I don't need your votes. They should know from last time. Okay, well, we better have these things being checked, and if they're not, then we better ask for this to be redone. I'm just seeing they wanted to play old school. They were too fixed in their response. Here we have the High Priestess, that which is hidden behind the veil. Secrets, keeping things quiet, and trying to keep the peace. I don't think they wanted the mess of having to do this over again and to have MAGA losing their control of themselves and acting like they did January 6th. Too afraid. So they just stood down. And went off and withdrew with the Four of Swords for their own peace to themselves and kept quiet about what they knew. I see a Queen of Cups. I see a woman that wanted to take the risk. A water sign, perhaps. And a woman or someone who had that intuitive energy, maybe not just one person, or just a woman, but this is that intuitive energy that knows, hey, my spidey senses are tingling. I think something's up, you all. I think we need to take that risk if we're going to do something here. And maybe it's a way, too, of saying more of the women in the party could have felt that way. But I believe they were thinking and being told you have to do it the old school way. You can't ruffle the feathers. Then we'll have this, then we'll have that. Fine, let us have that. We'll deal with it. Here we have the Magician. Manipulation, communication. Communication was really lacking. And also action. They should have said, sound the horns. This isn't right. We want a do-over. We need to look at what's going on before this, before anything is called. I think they're going to realize more and more. Of course, hindsight's always 20/20. But they were called to act, and they failed. So where does that put us? With the World, it ends. There's a completion. And we're going to have to work hella hard to fix this whenever we can. The good thing is, I think the message will be received by the time we get through all this dark crap. I think out of their own fears and uncertainty that doing so would be the right thing. I think they thought it would make it worse, especially worried about the disorder but I think they should have just said, we'll have to deal with it. So they walked away and they accepted the loss. It's also about abandonment and neglect. They're going to feel it because we feel like there was a lack of transparency with them in the way of saying, hey, we think this is wrong. You need to, there's things going on here. Let's do this, that, or the other. Let's take an active step, a preventative step. Instead, they acted in a way that was leaving it and negligent, out of fear and out of confusion, uncertainty. Biden and the Page of Cups. I think simplified thinking in this case. I think having a more optimistic perception or notion than was sensible to have. Again, I think counting maybe on women, and that the women's, I guess, votes would pull through or some such thing. But I think regardless, that 10 of Cups is still way too optimistic support-wise. I'm thinking they saw the support for her, thought she was doing well enough, and didn't think they would need to do that, that somehow, you know, those votes would be found or whatever. I think it was very, very, very short-sighted. I think they thought she also had it in the bag. And that's why they didn't do some of the other things earlier. But why they didn't later, I think, is out of fear. This is the need to stand and fight out of your corner. And it's paired with, they should have fought him. That's what the cards are saying. They should have fought him and resisted him more actively. I think those that tried were shushed and said, we're going to do it this way. That's not how we do things. Yeah, the limited thinking comes back out again. So I'm going to go with very limited thinking, not willing to take a risk, afraid that that would be worse, just too afraid. And you can't be too afraid to take a risk once you're in that position, especially once you realize, yeah, she could have gotten the votes, but now when you start to see the missing, issues, and they should have stood up and said something. Even the cards are saying that. Yeah, see, they didn't stand up. What I should have understood was not only the need to make a decision, but not making it. They didn't make the right decision. So they didn't make the right decision to get active, to do something to stir up the nest. And they just let it slide. 10 of Pentacles and Justice. I think they counted too much on the process to be safe or okay. Too much stock in that. And thinking we have to do this in the protocol, the legal, protocol that we do. They didn't want to break character in that regard. And that's foolish. All right. Once again, I just want to see, are enough Democrats going to realize the mistake in sitting on their hands? Are they going to get a lot of backlash from we, the voters? How do they feel about the backlash? And are they getting more people writing them? Or will they get more people writing them once they can stop shaking from their anger to hold a pen or to type? Well, the Dems realize that they got to think outside the box. They can't play. I feel like I'm a broken record player here, but yeah, I guess what else did I expect? Are they going to realize that, or are they still dense? That they won't fight for their women that try to lead. That's the other problem with this country, is misogyny. The rest of the world has women leaders, but not America. Are they going to wake up? Are they going to receive a lot of backlash? There's the delusions, and these are the alternatives, outside the box thinking, potentially. Ace of Cups. I think they will. I think there's going to be an overflow of people saying, you could have done this, why didn't you use this? Why didn't you use that? All these various means that they could have used, why didn't you? There were alternatives. Yeah, so I do think they will. And in a plentiful manner with the Ace of Cups. Here we have the Queen of Cups. This to me feels like the democratic citizens and their feelings, looking at it. There's the whole, you sacrificed 2 candidates, 2 women, because these 2 go together. Women that would have been good leaders, good leaders. You didn't stand up for them. So perspectives are going to be changed. Yes. And they will receive a backlash. I think they will be taking it to heart. Here we have the not doing anything when you should be doing something, making a choice and acting on it, paired with the 4 of Wands. People not feeling like they did anything to help us. The homeland, families who are abandoned. And they kind of have. They've abandoned us to it. They're all right, Jack. They all have that lifetime health care. Their stuff's not going to be cut or taken away. Here's the plan. Building, rebuilding. Goals to get back up. And take those risks. So perhaps the future with them will show them being more assertive, gradually getting and growing that way as a party, or as enough individuals that are more firebrands and are willing to push the envelope and do sometimes take the risk that needs to be taken. So that's good. They need to be thinking on that. They need to be willing to cause the scene, to make it reset, to act more boldly. I think they will. they just might get people back then if they do that. But folks are going to wait and see. So there might be some things down the line where we see as things get worse that they break away from the cricket playbook and go to a more assertive form that would deal with what they're doing better. So I see them rebuilding with a new awareness for the future. Looking ahead. And to have opportunities where they can respond in that fashion. I think especially as they become more aware of foreign involvement. Here's a much firmer response of where they're willing to take away the crown or make the leader uncomfortable to help, because people are going to be in, many people need that support, need someone to come in that like them, because they're wealthy compared to the rest of most of us. So, especially when they're seeing how folks suffer, really suffer this time. There is something that has yet to play out with justice, with the legal aspect. Well, hopefully it's justice that matters rather than, yeah, you're guilty, but we're not going to do anything. So what's the hidden aspect? Now, of course, cards are saying, well, you got to wait and see. But there is the Ten of Cups and ruthlessness. Looks like a ruthlessness where families are concerned, not caring. So I'm sure that will be not only the immigrants, but also Americans, quote unquote, that get their benefits cut or removed, whatever. The spotlight, the star, hope to be successful. So they're hoping they can overcome the battle in the future and win back people by trying to help them while these things are going on. King of Cups. Yeah. I think like Joe's going to have a lot more anxiety and worry about what's going on as he sees this unfold. I think there's some definite, I shouldn't have been so nice. My concern for Joe is his health as well. I think he's going to take this pretty hard and withdraw back, maybe for medical reasons or just because it's, having issues. The corruption, the oppression. Moving forward. a King of Wands, very active. The Empress, the wealthy, it's just going to show they're going to run over the top of people with the King of Wands. To me, that's Trump and all these guys that love to be cruel, like to take things away, make people suffer, women in particularly, and so that they can just make themselves wealthy, personal wealth. That's all what this is, about. And that's what they've allowed to get in there. They've got a lot of thinking to do. And so I'm going to leave that right there. Pretty much why we thought. All right. I'll see you in the next video.